Wesley Correa Carmenaty. Eric Fabian for the state.
All right, are you Wesley Correa Carmenaty?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Sir, you're charged in count 1 with kidnapping. That's a class 1A felony. The penalty is life imprisonment. Count 2 is use of a deadly weapon, a firearm, to commit a felony. That is a class 1C felony. The maximum penalty is 50 years of imprisonment. There's a mandatory minimum of 5 years of imprisonment. Count 3 is possession of a deadly weapon by a prohibited person. That is a class 1D felony. That is punishable by up to 50 years of imprisonment, a 3-year mandatory minimum. Count 4 is operating a motor vehicle to avoid arrest, willful reckless driving. That's a class 4 felony. The maximum penalty is up to 2 years of imprisonment, a $10,000 fine, or both the fine and imprisonment. If you were to be sentenced to jail on that count, there's a period of post-release supervision that also has to be imposed. Do you understand what you're charged with and what the possible penalties are?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Because this is a felony, you do have the following rights. You have the right to have an attorney. If you cannot afford one, I'll appoint one to represent you at the public expense. You have the right to have a preliminary hearing. That is a hearing where the state has to show that there's probable cause to believe that a crime was committed and that you committed those crimes. At that hearing, you have the right to confront and cross-examine your accusers, to call witnesses to testify on your behalf using the subpoena power of the court. You have the right to testify at that hearing or to remain silent. If you remain silent, that silence cannot be used against you. If the court does find that there is probable cause to believe that a crime was committed and you committed that crime, the case will be bound over to the district court where you'd have your trial. Sir, can you afford to hire an attorney?
Could you repeat that again?
Can you afford to hire an attorney?
Creo que no va a tener que hacer falta eso aquí en Nebraska. Lo que me dijo mi abogado.
I think not. I think I'm going to need one here from Nebraska, according to what my attorney told me.
All right. I'll appoint the public defender.
Kathy Sadoff on behalf of the Public Defender's Office. Judge, we ask to be set for preliminary hearing, please.
Can I have a date, please? All right, I'll set your preliminary hearing for Monday, June 5th at 10:30 a.m. back in this courtroom, courtroom 50. All right, regarding probable cause and bond, Mr. Fabian.
Your Honor, on May 1st, 2017, the defendant was in custody in Pottawatomie County and being returned to the jail after being sentenced to 45 years for voluntary manslaughter, attempted murder, and 2 counts of robbery. On the way back to the jail, he attacked the deputies that were transporting him. He was able to take one of the deputies' firearm and shot both deputies, killing one. He then fled in the jail van. At 16th and Big Lake Road in Council Bluffs, the defendant attempted to forcibly take an S10 pickup, with the driver being shot once. Eventually, the defendant was able to carjack a Nissan, forcing the driver to stay in the car at gunpoint. Defendant then fled to Douglas County, where the driver of the car was eventually let out at a liquor store here in Omaha. Defendant then continued to flee and was pursued by law enforcement at high rates of speed until he eventually crashed at I-480 and Cummings Street and was apprehended by law enforcement. All events occurred in Omaha, Douglas County, Nebraska.
Regarding bond.
Your Honor, other than the charges that I mentioned earlier that he was sentenced for on May 1st, voluntary manslaughter, attempted murder, and 2 counts of robbery that he received 45 years for, along with the seriousness of the facts and the charges that are coming in Potawatomi County. The state would request a $10 million bond.
Ms. Saddle?
Your Honor, on behalf of my client, he's 24 years of age. He's living here, was living in Council Bluffs. He's graduated from high school. Bond in this case is sort of moot. He was just sentenced, as stated by the state, to a term of 45 years in Potawatomi County. I'd ask you to consider a reasonable bond.
The court does find that there is probable cause for further detention based on the serious nature of the offense, the criminal history, and the flight risk. The court will set bond in the amount of $10 million, 10%. An additional condition of your bond is that you have no contact with Amy Kanger. Amy Kanger.
Amy Kane. Who is she?
She was the victim of the carjacking. So these are the other freedom dates, June 5th.
Judge.